quite frankly a diabolical performance from Arsenal this evening. Absolutely getting shown up again away from home against top class opposition. And you know what, it's not the first time I'm going to be doing a review like this, and quite frankly it's going to be echoing exactly what I've said in reviews against the likes of Chelsea away, City away, and guess what, Liverpool away. Awful from Arsenal tonight, absolutely awful. What have we learned from those games last season? Have we pushed on against big opposition away from home? No, we haven't. I'm left leaving this game with absolutely zero optimism going into games like Chelsea away, City away. It was diabolical, absolute capitulation from Arsenal this evening. Not one player stood out to me this evening, apart from Alexis Sanchez, who quite frankly was really below par. But yet again, his work ethic is incredible, and again showed exactly why. He's earning every penny of his salary, quite frankly, because of the amount of effort he puts into things. But again, every single player was below par. Not really making any excuse for Borussia Dortmund this evening. They were absolutely fantastic, blew us out of the water. We looked. We just looked like we didn't belong there at times. We looked like it was like when Celtic went up against Barcelona all those years ago. I mean, looking at some of the statistics from who scored, 24 shots from Borussia Dortmund compared to our what, 4 or 5 or whatever. It is quite frankly embarrassing. I mean, those are the kind of stats you would get against Barcelona, against Shamrock Rovers or something. That was just absolutely appalling from us. I don't know where it's going wrong. I mean, actually, no, saying that, if you look at some of the ways in which we lined up this evening, you can analyse exactly where we went wrong. First of all, 4-1-4-1 away from home against top class opposition, against players like Aubameyang that are going to run at you with pace, power and agility. When you've got someone like Mikel Arteta protecting your back four against a player of that calibre, you're asking for trouble. And Arteta this evening, don't want to lay into him too much because he's a favourite of mine, but he was diabolical. That little move he made, which could quite frankly have really cost us in the dying stage of the game, where he just let Aubameyang run past him. It was appalling on his behalf. And you know, I can't put too much stick on him because quite frankly he isn't a centre defensive midfielder. He's a player that predominantly played in a more attacking position at Everton. He was reverted into that defensive role by Wenger, and at 32 years of age, is he someone that in a midfield role on his own, remember, is he at the kind of ability where he's still able to do that? In my opinion, no way. Neither is someone like Matthew Flamini, who is 2 years younger than Arteta, and it is incredibly worrying. And first of all, lining up in the 4-1-4-1, like I said, with Arteta on his own, with no support around him, because of course he's got the 4 players ahead of him and the 4 behind him. So he's on his own, trying to protect against players like Aubameyang and Immobile, and he just got exposed massively. And it's incredibly worrying to think that when we go up to Chelsea away, which ironically is coming around in a couple of weeks, what's going to happen there? And I think we've got to revert back to a 4-2-3-1, and I'd even play Ramsey and Wilshere alongside each other at the moment, because like I said, Arteta and Flamini are up to scratch. They've been appalling, and it's all right when we're playing West Brom at home or something, or Palace at home. Yeah, we could chuck them in there. But when we've got to go up against teams who have got rapid playmakers that are going to be coming up against you, then we need players with pace and power and good tackling ability, which Flamini and Arteta don't really have about them, whereas someone like Wilshere and Ramsey won't provide us with the tackling side of things, but well, they can in some respects, especially Jack Wilshere, but they just provide more pace to be able to cover those players at least. But it's desperate times in that area of the pitch. Going forward, you'd think with the likes of Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, Aaron Ramsey, Jack Wilshere and even Danny Welbeck would have been able to come away with a goal this evening, but yet again we saw Mesut Ozil utilised on the right hand side of the pitch, and then later on in the game he moved over to the left hand side of the pitch. Honestly, don't know why this is being persisted with. He looks like a fish out of water. Again, a non-existent display from him this evening. I can't criticise him, I'm criticising the man that's putting him in that scenario, because he is an attacking midfielder. The team, for 42.5 million quid, the team should be based around this guy, not shoving him out to one side of the pitch where he's quite frankly bringing nothing to the side. We are better off playing someone like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain or Joel Campbell or even Santi Cazorla out in the wider positions, and then reverting Ozil into the middle of the pitch, because it is a waste of a position and it's quite frankly wasting the player. And if anything, it's really harming his confidence, which really isn't good for the guy, especially when he's going through a rough patch. So that's just something that needs to be addressed. Aaron Ramsey, another guy as well that completely hasn't stepped up to the plate. He wasn't good this evening, quite frankly, a poor performance from him. Jack Wilshere, probably our best midfielder tonight, but that's not really saying much because he didn't play played out well at all. Danny Welbeck had a couple of good opportunities to score, but in probably the best opportunity he had, he absolutely fluffed it, went miles over the bar, and that pretty much summed up Arsenal's performance. Looking at the goals we could see, the first one, how this was allowed to happen, just again ridiculous. Immobile giving loads of time on the ball, tidy finish past Szczesny, right on the stroke at half time, and then again following the kick-off for the second half, straight away Aubameyang, Szczesny totally at fault for this, coming out when we didn't have to. Mertesacker caught for pace completely. Mertesacker's another one that hasn't been particularly great this season, but you go, I'm going to give these players respite considering they've come back from the World Cup, but it is time that these professional footballers who are on thousands of pounds a week have to step up to the plate. They have to be performing, and it's not good enough away from home to have a couple of attempts on target. And one stat that really did leap out at me this evening. Arsenal ended the game with 56% possession, I think it was. Just shows how wasteful we are, really. Not doing anything with that. A lot of that was probably playing our own half. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And we were extremely lacklustre, poor and incredibly unproductive going forward. And it just leaves me with no feeling of optimism at all whatsoever, because we've seen it all before. Every Arsenal fan has seen this kind of performance before, against Chelsea away, against City away, and against Liverpool away, and it is diabolical. And going into that game against Chelsea, it's scary, because quite frankly we could lose like that again. And I don't want that. We should be pushing on from that FA Cup victory, going on to bigger and better things. But we're not doing that. We're at a real standstill. In fact, we've taken a step backwards playing players like Mikel Arteta, who's 32 years of age, going to be going on 33 soon, playing in the defensive midfield role and leaving us so exposed in that area of the field. This has to be a learning curve for us. It is only the first game of the Champions League. Let's put things into perspective for the moment. We've got another 5 games where you could potentially get 15 points and seal off the Champions League group. But it's the worst way to start, and that's going to send out a message to every other big team that we're going to have to play, that we are beatable and where we're going to be exposed. And another area of the pitch that's been a huge problem for us, the fullback area. Hector Bellerin and Kieran Gibbs both pushing so far up the pitch, and when we've got Aubameyang coming up against us, it's ridiculous how it could have been 5-6 or even 7-0 tonight. It was that bad from Arsenal, and I can't put into words why this is continuing to happen, why we're not learning, why we're not strengthening. We haven't even strengthened the areas that arguably needed to be strengthened in the transfer window. Why we didn't bring in a centre defensive midfielder, why we didn't bring in a centre back, it ceases to amaze me why we haven't strengthened where we just needed we are one player off being a complete team, and that is what the most frustrating thing about this is. One player off having what could be a title challenging side, and it just looks like we're going to be challenging for 4th again if we're going to be putting in performances like that, and I can't take any confidence from that at all. It's quite frankly diabolical. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like rating. Leave your thoughts on this evening's game in the comments box below. Of course, it is only the first game of the Champions League. It has to be a learning curve for us. Like I said, huge game against Villa at the weekend where there have to be changes. Got to stop playing 4-1-4-1. Certain players, certain individuals have to be dropped. Not going to name any names just yet, but I've got a certain few in the back of my mind. Like I said, like the video, subscribe to Arsenal Fans TV, my own channel, AFC Game by Game, and as always, thank you for watching, guys.